Hello, everybody, and welcome into today's episode of Around the Slice. Today is Monday, so as always, I am here for the recap show for the Buffalo Bills' victory over the Tennessee Titans. So, without further ado, let's jump right into it. So, the Buffalo Bills ended up beating the Tennessee Titans 34-10. The Bills, after three straight road games, which honestly, the road trip was kind of a disaster, if I'm being honest with you guys. But we were back in Orchard Park, and my one word to describe this game for the Bills, as I always like to kind of portray in a one word capture the win, if you will. Weird. This was just a weird win for the Bills. Let me explain. The first half of the game yesterday, being Sunday, for just after the fact, the first game, the first half was some of the worst football, if not the worst football I've ever seen the Buffalo Bills play in my 8 or 9 years, 10 years, whatever it is now, watching football, especially the Bills. They were sloppy. They were a mess. The defense did okay, except it gave up some big plays. But the offense was sloppy. It was a mess. They were all out of sorts. It was asleep. It was just absolutely awful. Dreadful first half. And then the second half, they absolutely exploded to score 34 unanswered points. The defense is getting sacks. They were getting near interceptions. They ended up getting a reception at the end, which we'll get who got that later. They were getting multiple QB hits, multiple QB pressures, and the offense got, I don't know what it was, but the halftime speech, I don't know, but they got a jolt. It was a very super, super weird game. There's two different games from first half to second half, really. So, Bills inactives pregame. Safety Mike Edwards. The fact of the matter is, guys, he's just the fourth safety on this team. Fifth, if you want to include Cam Lewis, because he can play anywhere in the secondary. The two stars of Taylor Rapp and DeMar Hamlin and Cole Bishop and Cam Lewis are clearly above Mike Edwards on the depth chart. A couple linebackers, I'm not surprised to see as healthy scratches. Joe Andreessen and Eddie Ulofoshio. And then center slash guard Will Clapp. They continue to like Alec Anderson as that jumbo tight end slash insert blocker slash six offensive lineman for certain packages. And they also love Cedric Van Pran Granger, which I do as well. And then defensive tackle Zion Logue. This kind of surprised me. I know Ed Oliver was back healthy. He wasn't as effective as I thought it would be when I'll get to him specifically in a bit with my stock report. But I thought since he was coming off the injury, even with him fully healthy, they would have four defensive tackles healthy. But they only had three. And if one gets injured or say, heaven forbid, God forbid, Ed Oliver were to re-aggravate something, that hamstring, because those hamstrings can be a real pain in the butt, pain in the you-know-what. So they had Ed Oliver and Daquan Jones as a starter, and the only backup was Dwayne Carter. They had Zion Logue as a healthy scratch. In their mind, I guess they wanted only three true defensive tackles healthy was because Greg Rousseau and Dewan Smoot, especially Smoot, can both reduce inside and still play at a pretty high enough level. So that's my thinking there, but I do think it's kind of risky only to have three healthy, true defensive tackles on the game day roster. Now let's get into my stock report. You know the drill: stock up, mixed, stock down. I only have one mixed, but I have a bunch of stock up, which we haven't had in like a month. So stock up. Quarterback Josh Allen. He was awesome. Again, super weird game. It's hard to get the first half out of your mind, but you're going to have to forget it because there were a lot of turn downs, if you will, for Josh Allen. Josh Allen wasn't taking what was there. Joe Brady was trying to push the envelope, if you will, just shots downfield. And 3rd and 1, he would go downfield. And 3rd and 2 or 3, he would go downfield. It was really annoying. But also, a lot of it was on Josh, too. He was staring down his receivers and not feeling comfortable in the pocket, and his pocket awareness was very poor. But like I said, everyone exploded in the second half, so Josh Allen finished with a stat line of 23 of 33, which equates and computes the 64% completion percentage, 323 passing yards. Like I said, he lit it up through the air, 2 passing touchdowns. And this is what I'm going to say right now to end it off. This is really strange. He only had 3 rushes for 1 yard. I would like to see Joe Brady use Josh Allen's legs a lot more than he is right now. 3 rushes for 1 yard, that's got it. I do believe that's a career low for Josh Allen with a single rushing attempt. Josh Allen should have 8 to 10, I'd say, rushing attempts per game, whether it's scrambles, but more so designed runs. All 3 of these were designed runs, but when they came, it was stupid. Like, it got tackled for loss, went nowhere, barely gained a yard or two. When Joe Brady dialed up these design QB runs, if you will, it was bad situational awareness. I would love to see him ramp up his legs even more. And then the whole running back James Cook, 12 carries, 32 yards, 1 touchdown. He didn't have the usual workload he has. Usually he has like 18 to 22, maybe even pushing 25 touches between rushes and carries, and receptions combined. But he's coming off that pretty nasty turf toe injury, which I'm surprised he even played. There's usually 3 or 4 month absence for guys, but he only missed 1 game. So he had 32 yards and a touchdown. Ty Johnson as well. He only had 1 catch, but the catch was for 4 yards and a touchdown. Don't look now, but Ty Johnson has 3 total touchdowns on the season as like the RB 2A, 2B with Ray Davis, or like RB3, give or take. Right around that ballpark. Like 2 rushing touchdowns and 1 other way around. 2 receiving touchdowns and 1 rushing touchdown for Ty Johnson. And then Ray Davis as well. He had 5 carries, 41 yards, 1 touchdown, and 1 catch for 6 yards. I would love to see him. I would love to see them utilize him out of the backfield like more, like get him going in the first half, maybe eating James Cook's touches just a little bit. Like maybe Cook, like maybe it's a 60-40 split. Cook gets 60% of the snaps, Ray Davis gets 40% of snaps, and then Ty Johnson, whatever, I don't really care. But that's how I would do it personally, and divvy it up, if you will. Divvy up the share, if you will. So I would love to see Ray Davis not just be a garbage time running back, because that touchdown run by him was absolutely beautiful. The best way I can describe his running style is he is a very violent runner. He shakes the ground when he runs. It's like Isaiah Pacheco to a lesser degree, obviously, but like he punishes the ground when he runs, and it's a very violent running style. So I really appreciate Ray Davis, and I just want him to get going more in the game. And I think Joe Brady has to scheme up better ways to get going way earlier in the game than he does. And wide receiver not Mac Hollins. Never Mac Hollins. Wide receiver Keon Coleman, 4 catches for 125 yards. That's just insanity. I should have. Let me calculate real quick, because what's 125 divided by 4? Because that's got to be an insanely high, like, average per reception. Yeah, 31.25 yards per reception. That's just ridiculous. All his stuff is downfield. And it's funny because coming out of college and even all throughout this year, Keon Coleman like couldn't separate for crap. His one big thing was he can't separate. He's horrible at separating. And I'm going to say it. I'm confident saying this. He was the best, not by much, but he was the best separator yesterday in the game by a bit. But Kincaid and Cooper have something to say about that. Amari Cooper, the new addition, which we'll get to in a minute here. But yeah, and then Keon Coleman, he can't say like he was caught. He's never been caught from behind anymore. Like he was kind of bragging about after the draft in his press conference that went viral. You know, with the coat, the cookies, blah blah blah. Because on the 2 catches downfield, the first one in the first half, he got ran down from behind, and in the second one, he also got ran down from behind. He could have had 2 touchdowns on a day, and he could have made a great day into an absolute monster day. He could have had like 150 yards and 2 touchdowns instead of 125 and no touchdowns. Maybe 175 and 2 instead of 125 and no touchdowns. But I digress because it doesn't really matter. But I know he's athletic, but like he's not a straight line burner. And like if that was any straight line burner, even close to it, they would have easily scored in that. So he was caught from behind, unfortunately, twice. But Keon Coleman, like. And I'm going to say the weapons here. Amari Cooper showed out. 4 catches, 66 yards, and a touchdown. That 1 touchdown, looking back in it, was really hilarious because he just got open in the middle of the end zone. It was wide open for Coop. I love the Coop chants that we've made up now. But it's awesome when they go, Coop. Yeah, that one. He had to look a rookie. He had to look to a rookie, Keon Coleman, and Keon Coleman was doing like hand signals, like go this way, go this way. He had to demonstrate the route for him, the route concept, if you will. So that was kind of funny. And then Khalil Shakir, 7 catches for 65 yards. Shakir is so shifty. I don't think people realize how like much of a human joystick he is. He's like a video game receiver with the joystick. If you've ever played Madden or Couch 25 now, I guess, which is awesome, by the way. But Madden mainly because NFL, obviously. So he's a human joystick. Like he's a slot monster. 7 catches for 65 yards. Like, screens haven't worked all season, whether it's been Kincaid, Knox, Samuel, tight end screens, running back screens, Cook, Johnson, Davis. They've been crap all season. Just dirt all season. Garbage. The free and clear scare worked very, very well. And speaking of another weapon, tight end Dalton Kincaid, 3 catches for 52 yards. I think he got really nice separation, and I loved the way Joe Brady deployed him yesterday and the way Joe Brady used him yesterday. I've been critical. It's not Dalton Kincaid's fault that it's his fault that he can't get open and separate, but it's not his fault where Joe Brady's lining him up on the field and how he's using him. I said, I hate how they're using Dalton Kincaid this year because they're making him into a tight end screen merchant. They're throwing him screens and expecting him to run after catch and pull guys over and juke him out, which credit to Dalton Kincaid. That's what he did, but I want him to see him be used in the intermediate and down the field, and he was used down the field on all 3 catches yesterday, and that was really awesome. He had this one nice over-the-shoulder fade on the sideline. They really complete that fumble. That was really, really awesome to see. And I think it's clear now who this offense should run through. It's Coleman, Cooper, Kincaid, Shakir. I don't really care about Curtis Samuel. I do not care about Mac Hollins, other than a red zone, other than 1 or 2 catches a game and a big red zone target that Josh Allen trusts. I don't really care about Dawson Knox. So this offense should and will, in my perception, flow through the big 4 of Kincaid, Shakir, Coleman, and now Amari Cooper. Anyone, and I don't really care who the number 1 target will probably be different. 1 week it could be Shakir on any given Sunday or whenever day we play. One week it could be Cooper, Kincaid. It doesn't matter the order. Just 1 through 4, any jumbled order. These are the 4 that the offense will and should run through. And we had our first 100-yard receiver of the season with Cam Coleman, so that's just awesome. And then the D-line really showed out in the second half. Like in the first half, they weren't getting pressure for crap. But yeah, defensive end, AJ Epinesa. He had 3 tackles, 1 sack, 1 tackle for loss, 1 pass deflection, 1 QB hit. He was a backfield monster all day. He should have had a pick 6 in the first half. He dropped an easy pick 6 with I believe Mason Rudolph was trying to get either a pitch or a simple screen pass out to Tony Pollard, and AJ Epinesa dropped a wide open pick 6, and Russell Douglas did as well. While we're on the topic of drop picks, we had 1 pick with DeMar Hamlin. We could have had 3 if AJ Epinesa caught that would-be pick 6. If Russell Douglas caught that easy pick, it said, "Nah, I don't want it." And then DeMar Hamlin caught that pick to steal the game. It was already well in hand, but still pretty awesome with the DeMar story and stuff. AJ Epinesa was a monster all game. It seems like him and Dwan Smoot opposite Greg Rousseau have a nice rotation going. And Von Miller, his suspension has kind of flown by, if you will. He only has 1 more game, and then we'll get him back for the mid-season / late season playoff push, which I think will make the playoffs with ease. But Super Bowl contenders, I don't know right now. So yeah, that was really good to see from AJ Epinesa. Moving out with the D-line. Defensive line, Greg Rousseau. 5 tackles, only had 0 sacks. But guys, listen to this. Who's an absolute menace on Mason Rudolph? 6 QB hits. That is the most by any single defense player in the NFL game in the last 2 years. You heard that right. Greg Rousseau's 6 QB hits are the most of any such QB hits in the last 2 years across the entire NFL. That is awesome to see. Again, I've been very critical of Greg Rousseau this year because he's way too inconsistent. Is he a game wrecker? No, I don't think so. I'm afraid the Bills will overpay him by a few million based on what he can be as opposed to what he's done. Since we had 3 sacks week 1, he didn't really do anything, but he really, I wish he would finish off a couple more of those sacks and instead maybe have 3 sacks instead of half a sack, sharing it with Dwan Smoot, but listen, I thought 6 QB hits most in the NFL by the last 2 seasons across the whole league. That's awesome. And by the way, Bills defense got exposed in the first half. It's not like Brian Callahan and the Titans and Mason Rudolph had this elaborate game plan. They were making the Bills into a space game defense. If that didn't make sense. The Titans were making this game into a space game. They were getting the ball out. Mason Rudolph was getting the ball out quick and efficiently with screen, dump offs, short part of the field, and then trusting the receivers and running backs, mainly Tony Pollard, a lot to make guys miss and kind of make guys miss in space. And that's exactly what they did. As we'll get into in a bit, the tackling for the Bills was very poor in this game. The Bills, I've said this, the Bills are always built to defend the deep pass and not have busts in coverage, which outside the one Nico Collins touchdown Houston, credit to them and Sean McDermott, they never really do it all. But they're not built to stop short, efficient, quick passing games like the Titans want to be and honestly should be with Mason Rudolph and were yesterday 100%. So that was unfortunate. And I hate this thing where, just side note here, I hate this thing where the Bills defense like comes out tired and sloppy and they always look like crap in the first half and they always give up an opening drive touchdown. I'm so sick of it. Why don't you just come out with flying colors and why don't you come out and dominate from the word go? As soon as that first ball is snapped, like be dominant. I'm so sick of Bills get up opening drive touchdowns. I mean, the defense, yeah, they took her half to settle in. I'm sick of seeing that. Like in the playoffs, that's going to haunt you. And in big games late in the year, that's going to haunt you because offenses have more diverse game plans at that point in the year. So you're not facing the Tennessee Titans every week. So I'm just little mini rant here. I'm sick of the Bills defense kind of looking sluggish and always giving up opening drive touchdowns. Well, they'll figure it out. Stop figuring it out and just not do it. Defensive end, Dawon Smoot, 4 tackles, 0.5 sacks, 1 tackle for loss, 1 QB. I think once Von Miller comes back, I know for a fact that Dawon Smoot is a legit rotational piece. Defensive tackle, Daquan Jones, 1 tackle, 1 sack, 1 TFL, 2 QB hits. I'm going to be real with you guys here. Daquan Jones has been by far better than Ed Oliver. And this next guy, Dwayne Carter, 3 tackles and 1 tackle for loss. I don't know if he was officially credited with a tackle for loss, but in my mind it was. He's either at the line, I believe, so that's why it wasn't officially credited. But Dwayne Carter, the rookie, has honestly been better than Ed Oliver. I'm going to keep it a buck here, like absolutely better. Dwayne Carter has become is still becoming and has become this season a legit rotational piece on this defensive line. Now, when Daquan Jones moves on either after this year, if they decide to cut him and save some money, a few million, give or take, or next year after his contract is officially up, I don't think Dwayne Carter will be the starting one tech next to Ed Oliver. Because he's not really a space eater in run defense, especially as a pass rusher. He's like an Ed Oliver prototype. He's a direct backup to Ed Oliver at 3 tech, so he's never going to be the starter at 1 tech, but he's a legit rotational piece. And then linebacker Terrell Bernard, he had 8 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. So Curtis Samuel, while we're on the topic of injuries, unfortunately, Curtis Samuel left with a shoulder injury, did not return. I know people say, well, with Curtis Samuel's speed and juice, he's an X factor for this Bills offense. No, he ain't. No, he's not. Excuse me. I haven't seen anything that says that at all. Not even close. Terrell Bernard, he left with a head injury, came back in the game one drive later. Then he left with an ankle injury, trying to work it out on the sideline and run up and down and jog, whatever they do. And he was officially ruled out. So I'm scared it's a twisted ankle. If it's a twisted ankle, it didn't look like a broken ankle, so that would be after the season. But if it's a twisted ankle, he'll probably not even miss a game. Not even miss a beat, if you will. But he had 8 tackles and 2 tackles for loss. Sometimes to his own detriment, he puts his body out there, but he is such a physical player. Like, people say he's great in coverage, but people forget how physical of a player he is. He's the total opposite of Dorian Williams. First of all, he's excellent in coverage as it is. But he's such a physical player, man. Like, TB is awesome. And then speaking of awesome, cornerback Taron Johnson, 7 tackles, 1 pass deflection. I do agree with the helmet-to-helmet hit. No harm, no foul, though. It was a penalty. But whatever. 7 tackles and 1 pass deflection. Like, if it weren't for him in the first half, we would have been down like 17-0, 20-0 to the Titans. Beautiful pass breakup on the very second drive of the game. It was really, really awesome. We see, like, I like Jamarcus Ingram. I like Cam Lewis, but they're not starting nickels in this league. So Taron Johnson's just he's awesome. TB and Taron. Speaking of awesome, Christian Benford, 4 tackles, 1 pass deflection. I thought his worst game of the season this year has been like the Jets game. And like, I thought Rasul Douglas was worse than him. So Benford wasn't like garbage in that game. He was just kind of bad. Giving up catches, having a couple more penalties that I would have liked. But Christian Benford Bedford tipped up that pass that was picked by DeMar Hamlin at the end of the game. Again, it was really well in hand, but it's really nice to see that chemistry between those two. Going back to the beginning of last year, Christian Bedford hasn't given up anything. He's not even targeted anymore because people opposing QBs know, rightfully so, that he doesn't give them anything. Then safety DeMar Hamlin, 5 tackles, 1 pass deflection, 1 interception. I still think he misses way too many tackles. His best attribute is a ball hawking safety and being that true center middle of the field Micah Hyde type. And I would love to re-sign him after the season, but will he go to the Steelers? As he stated before, he would love to play for his hometown Pittsburgh Steelers as he grew up in Pittsburgh, right around there. So that's awesome. And then kicker Tyler Bass, 2 of 2 field goals, 4 extra points. We shouldn't have to track extra points, but here we are at this point now. The fans love him. I still do. I just think he misses easy kicks and then makes the tough ones. But I still don't think if he had to go trot out there for a 45-yarder game-winning field goal or to tie it up, give or take, he wouldn't do it. But yeah. And then the interior offensive line. I say the interior big stock up specifically, or just stock up in general, because the tackles were a little shaky this game. Spencer Brown, he's had a bunch of penalties this year. He had 2 false starts, and then Deion Dawkins had a false start himself, and he just completely whiffed on his assignment. I think it was Arden Key. Arden Key totally pancaked him and just whiffed by him, if you will, for a sack in the Josh Allen's lap. So tackles kind of struggled in this game, mainly in the first half. But I thought this middle 3 of David Edwards at left guard, Connor McGovern at center, and Osiris Torrance, Saibo at right guard, Osiris Torrance there. It worked. They worked very well. Very, very well together. That middle 3 has a lot of chemistry. Now we go to mix. I only have 1 player, and I have linebacker Dorian Williams. Yes, he had 10 tackles. Yes, he had 1 tackle for us. So he technically filled up the stat sheet with that. But I'm at the point now, I've said this all year, but now he's dreadful. He's dreadful in coverage. I'm sorry to sound harsh. And I'm sorry to say it like he's garbage. He's not garbage. But the fact of the matter is he's a liability in coverage. And I think the Bills are starting to realize it and taking him off the field and, maybe buzz down Taron Johnson to that pseudo linebacker spot next to Terrell Bernard. Because Dorian Williams is a really physical tackler, and he plays with his hair on fire, and he flies around the field. Sometimes to his detriment, he misses too many tackles, few more than I would like, give or take. But yeah, I think he's a liability in coverage. So he technically filled up the stat sheet, with 10 tackles and 1 tackle for loss, but he's a liability in coverage. And I think the Bills are starting to realize that by subbing him out. Stock down, defensive tackle Ed Oliver, 2 tackles and 1 QB. He has 1 sack this season. For 7 weeks, I know he missed 2 games, so he's only played 5 weeks, but still, 5 games. But still, 1 sack in 5 games is ridiculous. And you would, in a very negative way, and you would think Ed Oliver, this would be a very friendly game script for him because, again, we scored 34 unanswered. We mean the Bills. We scored 34 unanswered in the second half, and the Titans had to be a drop-back passing offense. I understand that they got it out quick and efficiently, but Ed Oliver should have been able to tee off, if you will. He should have been able to tee off against Mason Rudolph based on the game script. So Ed Oliver's easily, on offense, it's been Curtis Samuel, my biggest disappointment. On defense, it's easily been Ed Oliver this season. I just don't really know what he's doing. And then punter Sam Martin, he had 5 punts. All 5 of them were absolute garbage. I'm sorry, that barely reached midfield. He had a punt average of 39 yards. That's ridiculous. You should have a punt average of 45 to 50 yards. And I think he's a very much replacement level punter. And thank God his contract is up after this year because, you've got to find a new one. This was just not, it felt like, actually, it didn't feel like, it felt like I seen with my own eyeballs yesterday. If you were even watching the game, the Titans had great field position damn near every time. It was really frustrating. And then stock up, I'm going to give it to the run defense as well. I don't know why I didn't mention this in stock up. I accidentally have it in stock down here, but I meant to put it in stock up. I kind of got confused, I guess. Run defense was stock up. We only surrendered. I say surrendered because our run defense has been garbage this year. We only surrendered and gave up 61 rushing yards to Tony Pollard. I think that's more game script than anything. I think Tony Pollard got game scripted out just because the Mason Rudolph, just because the Titans had to become a drop back passing offense in the second half, so they really couldn't utilize Tony Pollard. So because of that, I think game scripted out. I still think the Bills' run defense is garbage. But they were able to tee off on Mason Rudolph, and they were able to negate Tony Pollard. He barely ran in the second half because they were down by so much, but credit to them when he did. They stopped him. Now, this is a true stock down. This wasn't an accident putting it in here. Tackling was very poor. Like, other than Christian Benford, who's a very physical corner, and Rasul Douglas, like, DeMar Hamlin missed tackles. Terrell Bernard even missed a few tackles. Like, again, the Titans played I don't know how to phrase this well, but the Titans exposed the Bills' deficiency on offense, if you will, because the Bills are not built to defend the quick passing game. They're built to defend the deep pass and intermediate pass with their linebackers, but more the deep pass. They don't have coverage bust, as I mentioned before a few minutes ago. But yeah, tackling was very poor in this game. All three levels, D linemen, secondary, other than the corners, Benford and Douglas, respectively, and then linebackers. Tackling is very poor. Mason Rudolph, credit to him, got the ball out quickly and efficiently, and he trusted receivers and running backs, mainly Tony Pollard, talking to you, to kind of make guys miss in space, and credit to them. They did that at a very high level, especially in the first half. My big slice of the game award, who really showed out, I'm going to give it to Keon Coleman. Like, this rookie class for Brandon Beane is really showing out now. Cole Bishop's been really good at special teams. And he settled in nicely against the Texans in the second half a couple weeks ago when he had to play with the Taylor Rep injury concussion thing. Keon Coleman showing out. Dwayne Carter becoming a legit rotational piece. And I'm going to keep it a buck with you guys. I said, keeping it real, he's been better than Ed Oliver, like by far. So that's cool to see this rookie class. And Ray Davis, like, he's a very violent runner, and I would like to see him eat into James Cook's carries a little bit more, but like a 60-40, 65-35% snap share split, if you will, somewhere in there. So rookie Keon Coleman, again, 4 catches, 125 yards. That equates to 31. I just looked up beginning of this episode. You guys saw me calculate it. 31.25 yards per reception. So it was all downfield stuff, and it was awesome. Again, I wish he could break away from the defender and not be so slow, but yeah, burnt slice of the game award. It's not so much that defense attack. It's not so much that Ed Oliver did anything detrimental and drew a ton of penalties. It's what he didn't do. 2 tackles and one QB hit. Big freaking deal. He has 1 sack in 5 games. I've been very fed up and disappointed with him this year. Reflecting on my 5 game predictions from preview, I'm telling you guys right now, this is not good. James took over 0.5 touchdowns, I said. That happened on only 32 yards, but he got the touchdown from close range. Dalton Kincaid for 65.5 receiving yards. I think 1 more catch would have done it. He had 52. So obviously that didn't happen. Will Levis over 0.5 interceptions. Obviously, they made Saturday morning, they made this change. Brian Callahan announced, and the Titans announced, more Callahan than anything, announced by himself that Mason Rudolph would be the starter. That cancels out. We're just going to nix that one. And then Tony Pollard over 63.5 rushing yards. I'm glad this didn't hit. He had 61, but 3 more and that would have hit. So, and then I said Bills defense gets 6 combined sacks and interceptions. They had 4. 3 sacks, 1 interception by DeMar Hamlin. The 3 sacks, again, just quick review. Daquan Jones had 1, AJ Panessa had 1, and then DeWan Smoot and Greg Rousseau shared 1 for half a sack, 0.5 sacks, however you want to term it, respectively. If AJ Panessa had gotten that pick 6, that's 5 of these combined sacks and interceptions. And if Rasul Douglas didn't drop the easiest interception you'll ever see in your life, then that's 6. So this would have hit with context, but it didn't. Really poor week, 1 of 4. I can do quick math in my head. That's 25% hit rate. That's terrible. It will be fun, though, to calculate these at the end of the year and see how I did. Bills win the game. I said Bills win the game 27-10. It was looking like it could actually be that in the first half, but then they just exploded in the second half. They won 34-10, so I guess I was a touchdown off, a touchdown too conservative. So, yeah. And my final thoughts, I don't have any questions, usually do, but my final thoughts here as I kind of look at the big picture going forward, some positions. The Bills have an excellent RB room. They have an excellent starter in James Cook. They have excellent depth as well with Ray Davis as a violent runner, and then Ty Johnson, kind of a mixture as both. I've explained it before. He's kind of a jack of all trades, if you will. And then the addition of Amari Cooper is just inviting so much underneath stuff for this Bills offense. It's opening up so much for this Bills offense. I said when we traded for Amari Cooper on my initial reaction, quick 11-minute episode last week, that if Amari Cooper's double team downfield because teams have to respect his downfield stuff. Khalil Shakir was already doing good, but I think Dalton Kincaid, you saw in yesterday's game that he benefits most because if teams have to respect Amari Cooper's downfield acumen and separation skills downfield, then Dalton Kincaid should get free and open on those linebackers and safeties that buzz down whoever it is respectively, I guess. And yeah, you saw that yesterday, opened up underneath stuff for Dalton Kincaid. So he benefits most, and he did benefit most yesterday. Takeaways from offensive snap counts. I always just like to look at like offensive snap counts and who did what. A couple of things here. Matt Collins needs to stop playing so much. He plays 75% of offensive snaps. Enough. I don't know why Josh Allen trusts him so much. Every time he throws it, he has something goes terribly wrong. Poor ball tracking skills. It bounced off his hands for an interception. I think that happened once or twice this year already. Or it just sails over his head, or he just doesn't do anything. I think he's an excellent special teamer. I'll give him that. He's an excellent run blocker. I'll give him that. But that's all he should do. He should only play special teams. He should only be in the game for obvious running downs. Instead of 75% of offensive snaps, he should play like 35 to 40% of offensive snaps. Maybe even 30 to 35%. I'll give him that. So, and then a low amount of snaps. Amari Cooper only played 35% of offensive snaps, but he made it count. 4 catches for 66 yards and a touchdown. It was really awesome to see. But we knew he was going to play a very low amount of snaps, and he did 35%. I guess going forward, every week is going to be like 80 to 85%. So maybe even more. Takeaways from defensive snaps counts, I don't have any. Nothing abnormal. Nothing that stood out. Nothing with the starters or bench players that came in. Everyone played a fine amount of snaps. No takeaways there. Just those couple offensive things. Anyways, guys, that was a great breakdown today. I really appreciate you guys for coming along today and kind of clicking play on this episode and watching or listening. Speaking of that, you can watch or listen to this podcast on YouTube, Apple, Spotify, or, of course, as always, wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter personally at awagoner13. You can follow Sean on Twitter at RoundSlice. You can, sorry, I kind of blanked out there. You can, the Twitter stuff, you can follow me personally there. I just said that. I'm trying to get to 50 subscribers, so please help me out. The big 5-0, no deadline, just I know you guys can do it. I know you guys really enjoy my content, and I enjoy making that content for you, so please help me get there. But yeah, I will be back. Let's see. This is a 4 o'clock, technically 4:05 game at Seattle. It's a cross-country road trip, so got to look out for that. Cross-country never really goes well. East Coast to West Coast, literally cross-country. So I will be back on, let's see, I'm checking the date today. I kind of got to schedule all this here on the fly. Today's the 21st. I'll be back on Friday, October 25th for that Bills Seahawks preview show. Thank you guys for supporting as always. I will see you then. Bye.